She records it. I just wanted to double check. Okay, so we have, I'll start a little bit again for the recording. I am J.D. Allen, author of the Sin City Investigation series, and I am very happy today to be talking with Clay Stafford. He started Killer Nashville and is still running it today. But before that, he has a list of accolades I'd like to go through quickly. He's an author, a screenwriter, a publisher, an editor, a playwright, a an executive producer, a showrunner, a director, an actor, a model, a singer, a dancer, and a university educator, and a great asset to the mystery community. So did I get as much of that out in as short a time for you, Clay, as possible?
You know, the last phrase made me happy. A great asset to the mystery community. That's my favorite one.
And then that's exactly why we're here today. So we're doing the pretending we're at the bar because for those of you who haven't been, even if you don't drink, the bar is a very important part of a writer's conference. It's the social part of the writer's conference. It's the networking part of a writer's conference. And quite frankly, it's where you meet all your writer tribe that will be your friends for the rest of your life. So even if you don't drink, you can sit with a soda and talk to people at the bar. Nobody's pressuring you to drink or anything. But today I actually have a nice little.
And we've had people who've gotten their agent in the bars as well. So it's not just social, it's actually some business stuff takes place.
Yeah, exactly. So today, if we were actually at Killer Nashville this year, I looked at the schedule for this year, we would have just left the interview with Walter Mosley to come to the bar. So for those of you who are going to Killer Nashville this year, that's what you will be doing on Saturday about this time, is being all aghast over Clay's interview with Walter Mosley. So I'm going to ask you, with that long list of stuff you've done, what on earth drove you or gave you the idea that you needed to start a writer's conference? What was the driving force behind starting Killer Nashville?
I've always been an information nerd, and I've always been very interested in education. And I started, I went back to school at a later age while I was working at PBS, and got my MFA because despite everything that I had done, colleges at the time thought the degree was more important than, you know, being in 14 languages. So I went back and got my degree as an MFA, and started teaching at the University of Miami, and absolutely loved it. I love sharing information. I love the give and take, but I decided I didn't like faculty meetings. So I left.
Imagine that.
I left that and designed a program for Miami-Dade, which they're still using today, which trains the film professionals that are going to be working in Orlando. And then following that, I did some adjunct work here and there, depending upon where I was, because before I was married, I was traveling a great deal. And so, especially back in my actor days, doing theater and stuff, there's a lot of traveling. My whole life was in cardboard boxes. Use the boxes for the bedside table and put your lamp on the box. And then when it's time to go, you just put everything back in the box. It's really nice when you have dates, they come over, they're very impressed with your bachelor living. The house is full of boxes. So anyway, I decided that I wanted to do a conference, and someone, I put one together here in Williamson County, but it was more of a local type conference, which is good and has its purpose. But at the time in 2006, I really saw the potential for the internet, and so wanted to create something that was much bigger. And so in doing so, we were able to reach people all over in multiple countries, and we've had people from multiple countries come in. So we're truly an international writers conference. And so it has just grown from that. And through the internet, I've made so many wonderful friends and relationships and stuff. I mean, like, JD, I might not have met you had it not been for Killer Nashville. So We were looking at the time, I was on the board, I was the president of SEMWA and on the board of MWA, and we were looking at the time that there wasn't a whole lot of mystery, thriller, suspense related conferences here in this area. And I said, would it be good if we maybe started that? If we did that, would you guys be supportive? And then I contacted Sisters in Crime and said, if we did that, would you guys be supportive? And everybody seemed, that they were excited about it. And so we started in 2006, put it together in 2 months, started in 2006, and it's been growing ever since. And Sisters in Crime, you guys have been great in supporting it and helping get out the word. And we're all volunteer run. There's no profit being made at all, and never has been. I've never personally made a dime from. I have to pay the web person. I have to, there's people that don't feel like magnanimous in their hearts, to just want to give. But in terms of me, it's become my charity, because nothing makes me happier than to see somebody that just feels lost and comes to Killer Nashville and then comes screaming down the escalator. Someone wants to read my book. Someone wants to read my book. And then they end up getting an agent, or like Jonathan Stone, a movie deal with a manuscript he had in his drawer for 12 years. He thought, what the heck? And so pulled that one out and sent it to our Claymore Award. And he was picked and got an agent at the conference, got a publishing deal, and got a movie deal. And it all came from a manuscript that no one believed in at all until he sent it to Killer Nashville. And so somewhere, I hope when I go to heaven, or wherever I go, but papers burn at the other place. So I'm hoping that I go to heaven, but I hope, there's a writer's bar up there and people can say,
I'm sure. I'm sure there's one in hell,
did a good
too.
job. So,
there's a writer's bar in hell. I actually first met you in 2015, and I know you won't remember this, but
now you can interrupt me at any time, JD.
I tend to
talk.
So I first met you in 2015 when you called me because I had been finaled for the Claymore.
Yes.
And you called me yourself. I didn't get an email. I didn't get, a call from somebody on the committee. You called me yourself. And I was, if you guys don't know, behind me here, if I can get my, this is my collection of Mystery Writers Conventions badges from the conference we go to. My husband calls me a conference hoe. I don't know if that's a faux pas. But because even though I'm published and I have an agent and all that, the tribe is a big deal, and networking is always going to get you something, and going to hear other authors speak will always inspire you in one way or another. If you don't learn something from it, you're inspired from it. But the one on the top is the very first Killer Nashville. Now, I wrote romance novels for years, so I have a whole nother box of these from romance conferences, which are quite a bit different than the mystery conference. But Killer Nashville was I think the second mystery conference. My first one was Thriller Fest, but I got food poisoning the night I got there and spent the entire conference in a hotel room throwing up. It's an expensive conference for that to have you that in New York. But so speaking of the Claymore, Killer Nashville gives out more categories of awards than most conferences, and particularly the different categories and the nominations for the Claymore. Is that important to you for a particular reason?
For me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Or to the conference even?
Well, pardon me. Well, yes. If you look on the website, it says elements of mystery, thriller, and suspense. And that is very important to me, because you can have a horror thriller, a horror mystery, you can have a Western mystery. Mm-hmm. So it goes across multiple genres. So then just to say best mystery book, well, I feel that there is, we all have, we weed a lot of people out. We all have biases of what we like to read. And so mm-hmm. if you get an incredible steampunk mystery in, and someone is used to reading cozies, when they grade it, they may not grade it as high. So we try to find somebody who loves steampunk, familiar with the genre, and get them to look at the book. So we've divided the categories up so that we're actually, you know, the old apples with apples and oranges with oranges. We don't put them all in the same group and say best book, because
yeah,
that
because I send cozy authors screaming into the night. So having,
but I just think that, and I'm an eclectic reader. I read anything, and when we first started Killer Nashville, when I had the idea, I looked at really what I liked, and really it's the elements of mystery, thriller, and suspense that make a book good for me. Whether even if it's a literary, you know, Cold Mountain or something, you know, there's some elements of that in there that keep the thing going forward and keep me entertained and engrossed and enticed. And so we divided up in multiple categories to make sure nobody was left out. You'll notice that there is not pure romance. Remember, I don't do shower scenes. Remember, so
you were just down.
yeah, I get some romantic suspense authors, which we do have a category for romantic suspense. But for those of who don't know me, I say when I get to your shower scene, I skip your shower scene. I just don't do the shower scenes.
You're gonna try to tell me the steamy stuff doesn't move the plot along?
Well, I don't know. I guess whatever works.
So when you started it, you said it was
which is the point about the categories. You know, for some, the steamy parts are something that they really look forward to. And if you find somebody like me who's reading something like that, I'm like, too much focused on that, too much on that. And so I'm not the best reader. So that's why we try to find different readers for different things. And what's cool about Silver Falchion too is we've had as many independent authors win as we've had traditional publishing houses, and we've got some big names that enter, and then somebody may come out of the blue, and then we're really trying to look at quality rather than a popularity contest, and trying to, I guess that fits in with the mission of Killer Nashville too, of trying to get a new audience for our various authors who are a member of the Killer Nashville.
Let me clarify to those who might not know. The Claymore Award is for unpublished works. So if you're an unpublished author, you can enter that category and win an award, or even be a runner-up for the award, and you can put that on your resume or your query letter that you, when you enter the contests at these conferences. That's a good thing to add to your
it does open, the Claymore does open a lot of doors. But you said an unpublished, it's actually the unpublished manuscript, because you would be surprised who enters the Claymore.
Oh,
there are people who,
one that hasn't been published yet.
Pardon me?
So I can send in my next book that's not through the process yet.
Yes, and there have been.
I feel like that would be unfair.
It comes in. I see somebody will say, "Did you know that so and so just entered the Claymore Award?" And these are like household names who decide that they wanted to enter because it's anonymous. The readers don't know who they are reading, but it's anonymous. They want to know, where did they place if they were a nobody trying to get into publishing right now. And it's a very interesting thing, but we've had, I don't know, about a dozen New York Times bestsellers that I know of that have entered the Claymore anonymously.
My ego couldn't take it. I wouldn't want to do it. And of course, the Silver Falchion were published.
Yes, best book of the previous year.
The best book of the previous year. On that, you give away a very special gift to your guest of honor at the end of that ceremony. You want to tell us a little about that and how that started?
I'm not sure what you're referencing. Can you spoil the surprise?
Is it the guitar? Is there?
Yeah. At the end, we do give away guitars.
Yeah.
Yes, we give away. Yes. Okay. Yeah. For all of our guests of honor, we give them a little taste of Nashville, and and we award the Killer Nashville guitars, which always seem to go over very, very well. And we also award a dagger for the this huge dagger for the Claymore Award. And the first question with that one is always like, how am I supposed to take this on a plane? You know, because it's a huge knife. But we ship guitars. We don't actually make you have to do it. Although one of our guests of honors flew in on a private jet that she owns, and and
that
so
Twist?
Was
that Twist? When Twist Phelan, she's got her pilot's license.
No. It was Janet Ivanovich.
Oh.
And so
my 50th birthday was spent with you and Janet Ivanovich.
So Janet flew in. I said, "Do you want me to ship?" And she is so modest. Because I said, "Do you want me to ship it? I can ship it." She's like, "No, I don't want to ship it." And then it went back and forth. And finally, one of the people with her said, she actually has her own plane. And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Of course she does." So she took her knife back with her on board. But,
so do you want to go through a brief
can I be brief?
Explanation of I don't. That's why I was trying to figure out how to say it to where I could help you be brief. Just kind of a brief explanation of how the weekend goes, how it's set up, what kind of panels there are.
Yeah, there are almost 70 panels over the course of the weekend, and we have 5 tracks running concurrently. Some are marketing, some are forensic, some are genre related, some are writing related. And did I say publicity and marketing? Okay. So those run concurrently all the way through, and then we separate them with the interviews with our guests of honor, and then we have breakouts at the end, which are a little more workshop related because it's a smaller number and everyone can sort of talk about themselves, and in the audience they can talk about themselves and the problems that they have or something they want answered or something they're wanting to work on, depending on what it is. And then on Thursday, we have a master class. And then in between all of that, we have group lunches, group breakfasts, keep everybody together, try to make sure that everybody, because the relationships are so important, that we try to keep everybody together all the time and give them plenty of mingling time, because those resources are going to be something that they're going to keep for many times the rest of their career. And we've got the law enforcement, we've got that forensic track that runs through. So we have law enforcement people who come, and all of the law enforcement people, everybody who comes to Killer Nashville, as you know, you put your ego at the door, right? Because everybody is treated equal, whether you've never written a book, you've got an idea for one and don't know what you're supposed to do, all the way up to bestsellers. And we really, really vet people that come to Killer Nashville to make sure that they are teachers, that they are open, that they are interested in developing long-term relationships. And so even our guests of honor and our forensic people bring business cards with their personal numbers, everything, pass it out to everybody, so that if you have a question down the road, what happens when a bomb does this, you've got an ATF guy that you can actually call and work that out to make sure that you're actually portraying them correctly.
And you have Lisa Black this year too, right?
Yes, I do. And she's doing some forensic panels as well.
And so she's a writer and she is a CSI officer in South Florida. And she's also just a fabulous person too.
And I started to say that she is one of the dearest people.
Like, how do you walk around and pick up dead things? I used to work in a morgue, so I even think she's too sweet to be doing the job. So then in the evenings, you have an interesting thing the first night that most others don't have in the moonshine party, the moonshine tasting party. There's some of these things are add-ons. You have to pay a little extra for a couple of the night events to cover the cost of the alcohol.
It covers expenses. Again, really, I am very happy at the end of Killer Nashville if we made 1 cent so that it is in the black. and not, not the other way around.
Red. I think a lot of the mystery conferences run that way. We're that way with Sleep Fest. BachelorCon, when I was the big part of that, just enough to get the next one started, kind of thing.
Yeah,
so I think that's you'll find in the mystery community that's an overall way of doing business.
It's a lot of hand to mouth kind of situation,
right? So let me ask you, if there wasn't a budget involved, if it didn't cost, if you didn't have to worry about cost to yourself or the attendees,
are you going to underwrite this?
Sure.
Yeah,
if my check's good,
because I've been looking for years for someone just to underwrite it so we can have a free event that everybody can come to. That's my.
And you'd want it to be what? What would you want it to be?
Well, I think it's doing fine with what it is. But I would be able to, as I've said numerous times, and this is a good time to point out our scholarships too. Can we talk about that for a minute?
Absolutely, go right ahead.
This I sent out in the newsletter. If you're not subscribed to the newsletter, please subscribe, because we have information there as well, sharing. And if I put out that, be sure that you sign up for the scholarships. We had 3 at the time. I think we have 6 scholarships now, because 3 other people saw that and said, I want to support authors as well, because we all believe that the people who probably need to be at the conference are not necessarily the ones who can't afford it. So Killer Nashville for years has been using profit money to help those who show that they have some sort of, that they're trying. Like, are they members of Sisters in Crime, and they've written a book, they're sending it out, they can't seem to get any traction, anything like that. So those people are great candidates for the scholarship, because I've said most people that, that need to be there are the ones sometimes that can't afford to go to a writers conference. So we use those scholarships. So yes, what would it be if I had a person or a company that
say I was just going to give you a check to underwrite an event, what would you like the event to be? Would you want it to be like a big panel of some big time authors with a meet and greet afterwards? Would you want to have a dance? Would you want to field trip somewhere?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I've had this question before, and my response is, I don't know, JD, what's important to you? And you tell me what's important. Is it a social thing, educational thing?
Social things are so important to me, and the lifetime relationships that I have built. So I'll tell my agent story now, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I do. But let me answer your question. Okay. For example, like the Shine and Wine, which we, Tennessee, we make our own moonshine here. Mm-hmm. And we also have our local vineyards. And so we sample at the event, the moonshine and the wine, and then hang out with each other and talk. And what I would love to do, if somebody was going to write a check, for example, for that, I would like to open that up. But liquor costs, so we got to pay for it somehow. So if
you have some food there too.
And there's food. There's food there, yes. So if somebody wanted to write a check and cover that, so that every single person who comes to that conference can come to the Shine and Wine, for example, yes, I would absolutely love it and turn it into a free event.
Perfect. So I'm going to combine the contest and the social thing to tell my agent story. Now, I am on my 3rd agent. The first one was when I was in romance, and when I changed over, he just dropped me. The second one I got from winning a contest at another conference, a Florida conference, I'll just say that. And that did not work out. We broke up when I was on my way to Killer Nashville. But I got to talking to one of my friend's agents at Killer Nashville. We were at lunch as a group. She had 2 of her clients. She had 2 other clients with the last name Allen, by the way. So we got to talking socially. And then the next time I saw her at another conference, I had a copy of my first book in my hand that I had gotten published, but I suddenly didn't have an agent anymore. And she said, "Oh, I've been wanting to read that." So I handed it to her. And she's like, "Oh, great, I'll read it." So she sent me an email and said, "I'm getting to it. blah, 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 I'll be back in touch. Well, about a month and a half later, I can't believe I have 6 cats and nobody's come in here. Well, one's asleep on the floor, but I was working on my kitchen table and one of my cats walked around on my laptop while I had my screen open, and she literally emailed Jill Marr, just a bunch of goobly goop. And I don't know how. And about 10 minutes later, my phone rang and Jill said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm fine. Oh my God, Amy was that?" She's like, "I've been meaning to call you anyway." And she just started talking like we were already agent and client. And I'm like, "Wait a minute, are you my agent now?" And she said, "Well, if you want me," kind of thing. All of that comes from meeting people in conference and being open and available and letting them know. Writers that go to conferences when they're trying to get agents or editors or in the business, show that you're taking professional steps and are taking this all very seriously. And that is one of the most important things about networking, besides the relationships you build with other authors, which help you. I can't even enunciate, I can't even tell you the ways that having an author relationship help you. So anyway, I'll get back on track now. Clay, what do you think of the must-do items for Killer Nashville or conference newbies? But let's stick with yours since we're talking about that. What's the must-do thing? The number one thing they need to do if they come to Killer Nashville, if they get sick, can't do anything else?
Say that again.
So like if someone was coming and they only had one time to do one thing at your conference, something was going on in their life, and they know, what's the top thing you would want someone to do at your conference?
Ooh.
I didn't tell you these were going to be hard, did I?
No, and I've never, nobody's ever asked me that question before. It's like, why don't you go take a look at the crime scene? That would be.
So tell them what the crime scene is.
The crime scene, it started with my friend Dan Royce, who was eventually became the assistant director of the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, and we've become great friends. And he did training at the time for the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation investigators. And so I asked him back in 2006, I contacted the TBI and Dan contacted me, and we've had a relationship ever since. And every year he does the crime scene, which is based on actual criminal cases that they have investigated. And so we've had a lot of fun with the crime scene. We've learned that we need to put them in places, the body in places where the general public is not going through, because we did have a 911 call on one of our earlier ones, and then trying to explain that no, this guy's not even a real person, he's a mannequin. And they look, and I think he got his head blown off with a gun at that point. And so we had like reddish macaroni and cheese splattered everywhere, and it looked real. It even convinced the 911 responders when they first came in. So I would say probably go to the crime scene and see if you can figure it out. And because and that brings us in, because you're in a rush and this is the only thing, and this unexpected thing came up, guess what? If you win the crime scene, you get the Dupin Award, and you get a heavily discounted rate for the next Killer Nashville. So maybe your crisis will be over and you can come back and enjoy the whole thing at that point.
Okay. Or what's it? Do you have a good don't? What's a don't list? Don't do at a conference.
Stay by yourself.
That's my number one too.
I've had people numerous times. I tend to, as you know, because you've been there, I tend to walk the periphery. Mm-hmm. And I look for people who are sitting alone somewhere. And I go over and I say, "Are you with the conference here?" And they say, "Yes." And they say, "Are you?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm attending." And I sit down and I start talking with them, and they don't know who I am from anybody. And I hear their story. I hear what they want to try to accomplish. And I'm like, "Why aren't you over talking with people?" And they're like, I'm not a real writer, and those people I take by hand, and then I take them over to John Gilstrap or Janet Ivanovich or somebody, Peter Straub, and I say, "Hi, this is JD Allen," and start up a conversation there and try to get that networking going for those people. And so I think that probably the biggest don't clam up, don't be shy, put yourself out there, go meet people, because I really think the people that come to Killer Nashville are a special group. I think that they are there to encourage. I think that's what we're all about, to encourage. And so that would be my don't.
That would be your don't. The only don't that I will give you is with like with agents or editors, is to follow them in the bathroom and try to pitch them in the bathroom. that would be. It's happened.
It's happened to Killer Nashville too.
Yeah,
and no,
it's happened everywhere. So
yeah, and
they want you to be eager, and they want to talk about your books at the bar and then stuff, but they don't want to do it when they're in the
you follow them in. Yes,
I will also say business cards. Business cards, even if you haven't even finished the manuscript and it just has your name and mystery writer on it.
Put your picture on it too.
Put your picture.
Because these people meet a lot of people, and having that picture really, a picture that looks like you.
Right. Not a picture of you 20 years ago. Yes, because you come home with a stack of business cards and you want to, I used to go through the end of the day before the dinner and the drinking started that night, was make a list of my contacts and what we talked about, and either how I could help them or how they could help me. So I have notes from going home, because after all the excitement and the travel, and you sit down, you're like, oh my God, who was this guy? You know, and then that guy was an assistant editor at Kensington, you know, which you've forgotten because you just have his first name. So always have some inexpensive, you know, $10 for a pack of 25 business cards, whatever, to pass out and to collect at conferences. So that's a big thing. And you're going to collect a lot of good memories too. What's some of your best memories, Clay?
It's really the best for me is the one where someone comes in and feels lost and walks away with agents that are interested in them. I think that's probably the highlight for me, that I feel like, if you know my background, I think you do, JD, I came from an Appalachian background that I really should not have had the experiences in my life that I've had. And I had those because I put myself out there, but also there were people who were compassionate and decided to lend a hand, reach down and help me come up. And I think that that's probably the thing that I love the most, is hearing those kind of success stories and thinking that we've helped someone get on the road. Because those things, you talk about, people that lived through the Depression, never left the Depression. And I'm talking about the 1930s Depression, not this past year with COVID, but although I don't know if we're going to get over that either, but it's that kind of thing that you remember. How I can remember walking the railroad tracks, out in the middle of nowhere with nothing but fields around, thinking that there's got to be a world or something beyond this. There's got to be something like, at the end of these railroad tracks that's different from the life that I'm living here. And I remember that, and it stays with me constantly. And I think that that's probably the most moving part for me, when I see somebody get an opportunity that they never expected before.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Do you go to any other conferences that aren't yours?
Well, yes, I do. I didn't in the past as much as I wanted to, because Again, for my own personal reasons, I got married later in life, and I have two children. Of course, everybody always says, I've got two wonderful children, but to me they are. And I have never missed a night telling them good night. And when they were little, reading them a story. I have never missed a night. And so in order to do that, I traveled a great deal in my youth and my young life. And to me, being there for my children was more important than anything that I had ever done. So that's where my I've started now. I've got a 17-year-old who's getting his own life. And then I've got a middle schooler who's discovering her own life. And so now I've got several things booked for this year that I'm going to. So I'm getting back out. But everybody was like, why don't you go here and there? I had an interesting story. My attorney happened to be Sir Elton John's attorney as well. And so we were in New York, and it was an MWA meeting, board meeting. And Elton was there, and he was supposed to go to dinner. And I had promised my son that I would see him at 10 o'clock on Sunday morning when I came back. And I even called him, to tell him good night and read him a story over the phone from New York. And so the time got changed from a Friday night get together to a Saturday night get together. And by doing the Saturday night, I was going to miss my flight back. And so I had to say no to Elton to get back to my son. But the look on my son's face when I showed up to pick him up was worth everything. So that's it's just what's important to you, where your value system is, and mine is firmly with my family, and I've tried to be there for them. So long, probably more than you wanted to know.
That's okay. Does anybody have any questions for Clay that they'd like to ask about Clay or Killer Nashville? No.
I told you it was going to be a dull meeting.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Yes, Pamela.
Yeah, so I mostly gravitate towards writing short stories as opposed to novels. So how would Killer Nashville be, like, how would I be able to take advantage of Killer Nashville if I'm not looking to write a book? Like, I don't know how many agents are looking for people who do short stories. That's not my concern. That's what I like to do. That's what I'm leaning into. So how would I be able to utilize Killer Nashville?
Okay, and it's a good question, and we actually, Robert Mangio. He's actually doing a breakout session on short stories, writing short stories. So if somebody's interested in that, we've got a breakout. Short stories are very important to me. And many of the techniques that you use on a novel, the characterization, the plot, everything, the theme, all of that, location, fits into the short story. The only thing, like you said, you can't promise that there's an agent that's looking for a collection of short story material. But in terms of learning one's craft and using, again, the forensic networking that you're making there ties right into it. Robert Mangio, he writes mostly short stories and does a very good job of it, but he has no interest, I don't think, in putting together a novel. And he's there every single year that I think he's been there since 2006. I don't know. But so short story authors are certainly welcome there. And we've got several, I think 2 years ago, I was going to say last year, and we know what last year was like. And 2 years ago, I think Seamwood did a presentation on short stories, writing the short stories as well. And so there's, if you look at the schedule, you'll see that we've got short stories covered.
So Seamwood, for those of you who don't know, is the Southeast chapter of MWA, SEMWA, and they are in that area. So they do, it's a good organization to belong to, but also in answer to your question, also Pamela, from a writer's perspective, any of the connections that you're making there. I don't know, most authors write short stories as well, and we're all looking, we either use it for promotion for our books, or, like seeing in the Sisters in Crime one I do. I just didn't make the deadline for this one. Sorry, Gina. I just couldn't do both at once. But you're going to get, it's like you said, the craft is one thing, but it's the networking, because you're going to meet somebody that's in a chapter in Oregon that's putting out an anthology that's just up your alley, just from talking to them about it. Or, you meet somebody from a Sisters in Crime, group in Texas, and they're talking about what they're doing. And, oh, I just did an anthology down there. So you're going to find lots of ways to get your stories out. I love short stories. I really do. I think I've published as many of those as 15 novels, and probably more than 15 or 20 short stories over the years. So they're great I use them I write short stories to flesh out characters for a new series. So they're very valuable. And of course, when you have Art Taylor and his novel of short stories, and he's speaking at, what organization am I talking about? The Florida chapter of MWA next Saturday, and I just ordered a cloth-bound hardback of his short story that a publisher did, and it's really cool. So there's just always opportunities at conferences when you're talking to everyone, because everybody wants to share so much. I'm going to share another little thing that Clay, I'm going to do a tips for girls especially, but any guys out there, I see most of us are girls. You need to take a little bag like this with you at every conference, and have it in where you can get to. It has tissues, an extra table, Band-Aids, eyeglasses cleaners, and pens and lipstick. That needs to be in your backpack or your purse, because you will often not get back to the room as much as you would like, or if you end up sitting down and need to do a signing or something, or someone else. I also have safety pins in here too. You just never know. You don't want to have to stop in the middle of a conversation with Janet Ivanovich because you've got to run up to the room and get a safety pin because something broke, just say. So that's my big thing. Clay, you got anything else you want to talk about? I think.
Well, no, let me ask you, you got your new book coming out. How's that?
How is it? They don't tell you. It came out Tuesday, so I don't have any kind of numbers yet. It seemed to do really well. Bodies do. I don't have my actual author copies yet either, so I'm a little behind. So I have the art here, but we'll be giving away a copy of that, a signed copy to somebody here today of that. It's pretty exciting. I started this series with Midnight Ink, and just as the second book came out, they shut down. So I thought after 5 years of trying to get this series going, of getting it sold and published and put through, that it was just going to be dead. And my new agent Jill, and I found a publisher that picked up the whole series, the whole backlist. So it was pretty lucky. So earlier in the year, they republished the first two. So Bodies was the first original one that just came out. The audiobooks start this month as well. They're putting them all out in audio, and the next book comes out August 31st. So they are 2 books a year now.
That's great.
It's great. I'm complaining about how hard it is to get that much work done, but it's the kind of complaining that I used to roll my eyes at when everyone else did, going, God, I wish I had that to complain about. Now I have that to complain about, but it's really exciting.
You've been going to this point for some time, because weren't you a forensic anthropologist and a creative writing major, both? Mm-hmm. So you kind of, obviously you were geared in this direction very early, weren't you?
I was, and I had this great idea when I was in college to write a story about these burgeoning CSI departments in the police departments. And then some TV series beat me to it. And at that point, I had to go to work, because college was done, and so I don't know also if you know that I'm dyslexic. I'm very dyslexic. And my first experiences trying to get published before I with the conferences and got into a crowd and had a lot of confidence didn't go over well, because I didn't know, too much about the process, and I was turning in manuscripts that, had not been corrected for my dyslexia, because I just thought, oh, I can write the book and send it in. So I gave up for a while. I really did. And when my late husband, Alan, you might know where I get my pen name from, got diagnosed with cancer, I started to write again with the intent for it to be my business, and then started back over, fell into writing the romances, and after 11 of those, I was like, I really want to kill people. So I stepped over from there. And it was almost a 5-year transition from romance into getting, picked up. I self-published some of the romances for a while after I lost that publisher in between, and decided that self-publishing is not for me. It's very valid. I think people should publish however they wish, but with the dyslexia, and I've got too many extra steps to go into my process to be able to do everything that a successful self-published author needs to do.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy to pick up an agent again and pick up a new publisher.
Sarah, or
we've got some questions in the chat, if you don't mind.
Okay.
We got some. Yeah. So let's go ahead and start with Elizabeth Walker. Thank you for submitting this question. It's a very good question. What do people usually wear to conferences?
Be sure that you wear
whatever you want.
wear whatever you want. For the awards dinner that we have on Saturday night, everybody sort of dresses a little bit more upscale, maybe like what I'm wearing right now. Some people will put the tie and stuff, but be sure always to bring a sweater or a jacket, because one of the biggest complaints is that the room is too hot. And from the same room, one of the biggest complaints is that the room is too cold. And there's absolutely no way that I can fix that, because it's the same room. So if you feel cold, you'll have something to have. But yeah, you just whatever is most comfortable for you. You don't have to dress up except for like this one event. And then some people,
or if you're doing one of the agent or editor meetings, you want to do at least business casual for that, and you always want to have comfortable shoes on, because sometimes, was it the Omni the year it was in the
Omni?
So
it was like the airport terminal.
It was like walking
Atlanta airport. Yeah,
it was 15-20 minutes from your room to the conference rooms.
They needed
a beautiful
shuttle.
Hotel. It was a beautiful hotel, and the Country Music Hall of Fame is in the hotel now, and all this was fabulous. But oh my God, I had on a brand new pair of cowboy boots with a 3-inch stack. And I think that's when my rheumatoid arthritis kicked in.
Yeah, I think it's important to think, Pamela, that you don't know who you're going to meet, and remember, first impressions count, and you are your brand. It's not the book that you're writing now. You are your brand, and so I would dress how someone of that brand would dress. And we have people who write Westerns who come in. CJ Box comes in dressed with a cowboy hat. I mean, that's his brand. So it's, and then there's a lot of people who come to Nashville who buy shoes. What now? I'm sorry,
then you have Hank Phillippi Ryan that looks like the TV news anchor that she is 24/7 with the 4-inch heels and all that on. So
so think about what you want to convey as your brand, and then dress that particular way.
That's a great insight, Clay.
I mean, it's not really a costume, but
no, it's a reflection of who you are.
It's a reflection.
This is how I look most of the time. So when you see me at the conference, you're going to see me looking something like this. This is how I look. Even though I dress this to write, because in my mind it makes me feel like I'm going to work when I dress up to come. So every morning I get up and put on my clothes and go write. So it's just, it's kind of an extension of who you are, Pamela.
Okay, fantastic. So the next two questions are I'm going to combine them. Danielle Cullen and Ashley Bernier, I hope I got that right. They kind of go together. So would Killer Nashville be applicable for someone who's considering writing a screenplay or in audio drama? And I'm glad that that question was asked, because next week I start an intensive for writing a horror screenplay. So
cool. Yes. For those who don't know, a good amount of my background is in screenplay writing. I'm a filmmaker, producer, director, writer, showrunner, etc. Developer for a nighttime series for Sony. I have a strong background in screenwriting, and it's always been very close to me. And the answer to your question is yes. We have we've even had like Haywood Gould, who I worked with at Universal many years ago, as one of our guests of honor, and he's done a lot of script, Boys from Brazil, Cocktail. So yes, Killer Nashville does cater to screenwriters and TV writers, as well as novelists and short story writers. So a lot of the things that you're going to learn can be applied across the board. I really think it's the format much more than the storytelling that makes the difference. So in the case of screenplay writing, it's very simple. The thing is, it's, as you know, Pamela, it's visual and it's auditory, and that's all you've got to work with. So if you keep that in mind and know the proper screenplay format, then you're good to go. And we do have sessions. I don't know if we've got one this year, but we do have sessions just on screenwriting itself, looking at. We do. I think we've got a breakout on for writers wanting to get their work into Hollywood. So we do have a breakout for that particular thing. But yes, screenwriters are very much a part of the Killer Nashville community.
Mm-hmm. And then also, just for clarity, for audio dramas, I guess, do you guys have any type of, or do you have any advice for those who are looking to break into that type of area? Does that make sense? Because audio dramas are a little different, I think. Mm-hmm.
Well, again, I'll go back to, and JD, jump in here with me, but for me,
storytelling is
storytelling. Yeah, so
and whether
just,
you're
it's just
screenplay, and I'm assuming audio drama, and if you want to unmute and Ashley and tell me.
Yeah, it's actually,
you blanked out on me there, Clay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, it's just something that I started doing this year as part of another project, and it's just really interesting. It's just a format that I'm just learning how to do for the first time, but I just thought it would be very, since it is a growing field, and it just seems to be such an interesting choice of media for telling stories. I just wasn't sure if there was any kind of advice or like marketing opportunities within Killer Nashville. I mean, it's something that I believe is like growing in popularity, but I was just curious about whether or not that was something that was offered.
It really it's like old radio dramas. And pardon me?
Yeah, but they are like in a nutshell, but then they get like some of the newer ones are just so in depth. It's like listening to a movie almost.
Yes. And again, I'd go storytelling is storytelling. In our upcoming, we publish out a newsletter magazine. In our upcoming Killer Nashville magazine, we got a 3-part series. So if you're not subscribed to that, Ashley, subscribe, go on the website, or killernashville.com, and subscribe, because there's a how-to on creating your own audio works like that. So that will, you might find that beneficial if you're not already past that learning curve in terms of doing that. But yes, I think that you would find Killer Nashville certainly applicable to what your interests are.
Great. Great. Thank you for the clarity on that. Elizabeth has another question for us. Ready, Set, Pitch is listed on the website, but there isn't an option to sign up for it when she registered. Will that be available? Or I guess, how does one do that now that they are
There's only like
registered?
20 slots on that. Let me look real quick, if you don't mind, while I'm here. Yeah, if you go to Elizabeth, if you go to the website right now, there's a sign up form right on that page. So you go to the drop down menu where it says conference, all the way at the very bottom, it says Seamless Pitch Workshop. Click on that. And if you scroll down just a hair past where it says there's only 24 spots available, you will see that there is a sign up in order to be able to do that. Is that helpful?
It's like less than normal, Clay, or is that an abbreviated for this year?
What do you mean?
It seems like there was more slots for that in the
No,
past.
they usually keep it small like that. So that's pretty much what it is. There's always a waiting list. It usually sells out quick. So Elizabeth, if you want to do that, I would recommend you just go ahead and do that right now, and before the slots get filled up. Any more questions?
And just for everyone's clarity, to sign up for the newsletter, just go to the homepage of Killer Nashville and go way to the bottom. I believe that's where you fill in your
They've got it, yeah.
Email and your name to make sure that everybody knows where to find that.
Yeah, and we don't sell or anything like that, so it's all private. And we're doing a revamp on the Killer Nashville magazine. Jay Jantz is going to be our cover story coming up this Friday. And we've got quite a few series. I had sent out a kind of an intro asking for people who wanted, and if any of you want to write for Killer Nashville magazine, it's great. I mean, when we go out, you hit potential audience. You don't know who's going to open what, but you hit a potential audience of around 60,000 people. So it's a great way to get the word out on something that you're doing, because it's always got a link back to your site on the particular article that you're doing. So if anybody wants to write, feel free to reach out to me and get on that. But we're doing a revamp of that, and we've got some really, really, really good articles and stories that are. I'm really, really, really excited about the direction it's going to go. But yeah, I'd love to have any of you write for Killer Nashville. If you've got an expertise in the area, I'd love to have that. And again, you're helping somebody, but also, you're helping yourself, because we've got a pretty good reach in terms of who we're going after.
JD and Clay, I've never been to Killer Nashville, and I can't wait to go. I've been to other conferences, and as a published writer, I've been on panels. If you were interested, does Killer Nashville have panels like Malice and BoucherCon? And if so, how does an author find out about those panels?
Well, when you sign up, it asks if you would like to be on a panel. And then it goes ahead and asks you which ones you want to be on. And everyone who signs up chooses their top 5 in the order that they would like to be on them. And then when we assign, and I'm the one that usually goes through and assigns, I'll go, okay, Sarah's got she's got expertise in this area, and that's her number 1 choice that she wants to talk about. So more than likely you'll get your number 1 or your number 2 choice in terms of panels. I know how important it is, having gone to conferences myself, of sometimes you want to go because you feel like you want to be on the panel. And we have free book signings that are open to the public after the sessions, so you want to be on a panel so then you can go sell the books, and that's very important to you. So I've always made sure that everybody who comes gets to be on a panel, and hopefully it is their number 1 or number 2 choice. The only time there's ever an exception to that is if it's like, the dialogue panel, everybody's like jumping on the dialogue panel. And to accommodate that, sometimes I've even broken up different aspects of dialogue, looking at it from different nuances in order to be able to accommodate the people who want to be there. But if you want to be on a panel, pretty much Killer Nashville guarantees that you'll be on one, Sarah.
Well, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. The point of view, and if you've written one book or you've written 10 books, there's a story that each of those people have that is beneficial. And I learn a great deal all the time from the people. I mean, I'm supposed to be the founder and the head of Killer Nashville, but I'm constantly learning from the people who are coming. And so to try to go, again, it's not a popularity contest. It's a giving everybody access, giving everybody equal stage time, equal treatment, equal access. You'll get on a panel if you want to be on a panel.
Right.
But that's the time that you do. That's the time you do it when you sign up. You say,
okay.
It also asks you.
Do you have a place to volunteer in registration, Clay? I can't remember.
Do what now? A place to volunteer? Yes. And there also, again, if you go to the conference drop down and it says get involved, if you click on that, it's got volunteer. And again, we are a volunteer run event.
And it's one of the best ways to meet people at a conference is to volunteer.
Yes.
Especially if you're a little shy out the door, sitting at the registration table for a couple of hours one day. First of all, you're going to make buddies with the other people working right off the bat. So you already have somebody to hang around with a little bit. And then you're going to meet people coming in and out and get really comfortable very quickly. Yeah, and there's a lot of ways to volunteer. You can be the time card person in the room, but I find, somewhere like registration or one of those things where you really get to interact with people is one of the better places to volunteer.
Yeah, and and there's even people volunteering. We go, can you do me a favor, Bonnie, and run to the the airport and pick up Michael Connolly? And so you have a no, I mean seriously.
Yes,
so you have a you have a 25-minute confined in the car with Michael Connolly talking. So it runs the gamut of what a volunteer does. And of course, if you've got the background helping with our awards, JD, you know how that is. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to read. And so we're always looking for people to help out with awards if you've got the particular qualifications to do those.
Yeah, volunteering is always good. I feel like I'm leaving out something. Sarah, Pamela, Gina, does anybody have anything to add about conference, your idea of what people need to know about conferences in general or Killer Nashville in particular? What are the things that Clay said, and I've been to a lot of conferences. I go to a lot of conferences. I've been to almost all of the writers' conferences. There's some of those smaller local ones up Northeast that I haven't gone to, but one of the things I have family from Tennessee, so I love to go for that reason. But it's one, like you said, it's one of the conferences that's less clicky, and I don't even want to say that the rest of them are clicky, because that's just, I don't find that to be the case. But Killer Nashville is one of the most laid back when it comes to everyone's just whoever walks in the door. You're sitting and talking with someone, and then you realize that she runs Poison Pen Press, out of Arizona, and you're just sitting there having a coffee and just yakking away about whatever, and you've made a contact. I mean, that happens everywhere, but I feel like at Killer Nashville, there's just a little veil of this is cool, just kind of running throughout the whole thing. It's very laid back, it's very relaxed.
Thanks, Judy. That was great.
Yeah, actually, no, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
No, go ahead. I'm just babbling.
Yeah, I was gonna say I am a member of the Sisters in Crime Guppies group, and just like last week, I think it was, a lot of people were talking about ButcherCon because it's in New Orleans, which is where I'm from. ButcherCon, excuse me, and that's in New Orleans, where I'm from. But someone was talking about conferences, and they specifically said that the one that they've been to that they felt they got the most out of was Killer Nashville.
Wow.
Like they specifically mentioned it by name, and how they
Okay,
were
well,
going this year.
BasterCon is a readers conference, and it's set
Mhm.
up and designed around readers' experience. So it's a different animal. It's they're both fruit, but they're a little bit different, right?
Yeah, I think that's an important point too that I was going to make is I think you need to look at yourself and see every conference has its own nuance. And I don't know that one's any better than another one. Of course, I'd like to say, you know, yeah, come to Killer Nashville. We'd love to have you there. But I think they all serve a different purpose and a different nuance. And you kind of look and see what is it that you're wanting to get out of that experience, and then that's what you make your choice on.
If you have limited travel dollars, that's my best advice.
Yeah, and that's really what the conversation was about, was as a writer, where do I go? There's so many things to do. This person's like, hands down, it's Killer Nashville. This is where you want to go, and just started writing a whole thing about it. And I would share it, except that it's on a listserv that I felt like I can't do that, but I thought I can tell the story of what I read, and this person was just very much about it. And I'm a pretty introverted person, and even as an introvert, I found that everything that JD and Clay are saying is really true, that when you go there, it's a community, and don't sit by yourself. People are so welcoming and so nice, and you just learn so much. Just, you know, it's not even almost about what's the connection I'm going to make. I go into it with, what am I going to learn from somebody new? And that's where you start. You know, it's like, how can I learn something new and meet a new face? And you know, I find there's so much value in going to conferences now that we're doing them in person again. That's one of the things, like, I can do virtual, but really it's really better to go in person and get to just really be in front of people.
And see, Pamela, if I can address that, I know your type. So when you come, you're going to find someone that you like, and you're going to hang out with them. Then you're going to find somebody else, and you're going to have like this group of 3, and you guys are going to sit at the same table for lunch, same table
every
for
day
breakfast
for the
every
rest of
day.
your life.
And you know what I do? In order to take care of you, we have our guests of honor, our special guests, and our agents deliberately rotate tables at every meal. So if you won't go to them, they come to you, and I make sure that you guys get to meet them, because I know that you may not go out and put yourself out there and to do that. So, you know, if you don't want to go to the mountain, I'm going to bring the mountain to you. So.
That's fantastic.
So once you're published, the readers conferences are a different thing that you go for a whole different reason. You know, like BasterCon and Left Coast Crime. So, you know, writers conferences are for us, and, you know, yes, we sell books there because we're all readers, but we're really kind of selling books mostly to each other at the writers conferences. I know, Clay, you said that it's open to the public, and I know some people do come in, but in general, you know, I have more books than I can sit in this house, and I can see my husband is glaring at me from the kitchen, because he knows every time I come home from a writers conference, I come home with another stack of books and a bill from that. And yeah, so I am just disappointed that I do not get to go to Killer Nashville this year, but, because I am a volunteer and part of the BasterCon conference, and they are 2 days apart this year, simply because some scheduling issues, both before the pandemic and with the pandemic. That's the only reason New Orleans and Killer Nashville are so close together this year. So I'm a little disappointed.
Yeah, when she first told me that, when JD first told me that, I was like, is this an every year thing? Oh my gosh. And she's like, no, it doesn't do that. But I think for Killer Nashville, if we've got a wide range of people with an idea who want to learn how to do it. So we got a track for that. And that goes all the way through to the marketing. And we've had people, Donald Bain, who was a really good friend of mine. He came every year as just a regular attendee. He did the Murder, She Wrote series, and did the book Coffee, Tea, or Me. You remember that one when it came out? But anyway, he's deceased now, but he came every year. And just for the marketing, because things keep changing so quickly in terms of how authors can go. So you have starting out authors who are wanting to learn the craft, but you also have authors who already know the craft and have a bunch of books out, but they're wanting to know how can they get to that next level. And so we offer that. So really our focus, as JD was saying, is not so much in bringing in a bunch of readers in order to see you to sign, but to help you get to the point where you can get those more readers. And so that's sort of our particular nuance.
Wow.
And you're good at it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Boy, you've all made me want to go. This has been, it's just been so helpful.
Well, that's great. We'd love to have you, Sarah. Any other questions?
We want to be respectful of everyone's time since we have about 6 minutes left. So any final thoughts, Sarah, to close us out?
I know one of the things that surprised me, and I'm kind of a newbie to conferences. I'm a newbie to this whole writing world. What did surprise me about BoucherCon was you could take like a day trip, or not a day trip, but like a half-day trip into Dallas, I think it was. Do you have any Nashville side trips that people can sign up for?
Yeah, Friday night is free on your own. There's nothing that's going on Friday night, and so a lot of people, there's a shuttle with we have a special rate, hotel rate with Embassy Suites. And so we pretty much take over the entire hotel when we do it. So it's a wonderful thing because everybody in there is a mystery thriller suspense writer of some sort or in the business. And so then on Friday night, there's always a big group that's headed down to Broadway.
Okay.
And cool. depending on traffic, I have gotten there in 15 minutes to Broadway. So depending upon how you drive or how the person is driving, 15 to 25 minutes, you're in right downtown Nashville. And then there's also, we're in the heart of Franklin, which is a historic town. And so if you, if that's your bent, there's everything from ghost tours to battlefield
fabulous restaurants
and
fun.
And the town was built in 1799 and they have made it look that way now. So it's used a lot for film sets. People come and dump dirt on the asphalt for the street and drive wagons through because it looks like a Hollywood set. And so it's a beautiful place to go down and walk. And so it really just depends on, do you want the honky tonk side or do you want the relaxed back in time side? So there's ample time all the way through. And we've got 2 PGA golf courses here. And I mean, there's the Harpeth River for kayaking. So it's whatever you want to do. There's a lot of things. Some people use it as a family vacation. And so they come and then stay an extra 2 or 3 days and do tour stuff.
Cool.
So, yes.
The one thing, the last thing I did glance at my notes that I do want to say about any conferences is to be fun, have your drink, whatever you're gonna do. But please remember, you still are at a business conference, and people have long memories. So be professional and courteous to people. You never know who it is you're talking to or who you bump into at the coffee shop and are kind of rude. So just keep that in mind, that it is a business thing and most people are there for business purposes, have a lot of fun doing so, and it's open and everything, but it is still not the time you want to get drunk and start screaming in a microphone or something. That's the girl who drinks a little too much occasionally. I will just my last bit of don't do, but do go to conferences, go to Killer Nashville or any of the others and use it to help move your own career and your own writing chops along.
Yeah.
And I thank you guys for having us today. Clay, it was good chatting with you again.
Yeah, it is, and we're going to miss you, but maybe next year.
Next year? Oh yeah, definitely next year.
I will see you in person. And then as this year I'm traveling around, so JD, I may actually see you in some other places as well.
Okay. We should come to Florida because Flute Fest is a good writers conference too.
Okay.
Really quickly.
Fabulous writers.
I'm writing that down as well.
That's in February in Florida, guys. So let me just say, not competing with Clay at all for my little conference we've got going down here, but it's Flute Fest is the Florida MWA chapter conference.
Mm-hmm.
We have lots of flamingos and fun and poolside activities as well as normal stuff. And we're a short trip to the beach.
Wow. Well, so many people, I hope you can see.
It has the same feel and everything as Killer Nashville does. It's a small writers conference that's just for writers. So
anyway, so many people are thanking you guys in chat. And
thank you for all coming.
This has just been fantastic. Thank you. Oh, okay. Let's have a quick where people leave. Do we have a way that we decided we were going to do the giveaway?
We had the 22.
So 22 divided by 2, 11. Number 11. Let's see if can we look at our admit screen?
Yeah.
And see who number 11 was.
And then I'll need them to email me a mailing address. So I'm putting my email in here for questions or any advice.
And Gina, Pamela, JD, Sarah, thank you for having me here. And then also everybody that showed up.
Yes. Thank you so much, everyone. And we will find out the 11th person who was admitted, and that person gets to get a free signed book from JD. And we will announce that in our newsletter and at our next meeting.
Yeah, we
did. We not figured out? We didn't count down.
Yeah. So,
okay, well, let me know who that is, and we'll email with them or contact them and figure out how to get it.
We will.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Everybody. All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Everybody.
Thank you all.